You're getting married, not managing an event team. At Simply Eloped, your dedicated planner takes care of every single detail so you don't have to. They have helped over 14,000 couples say I do across 37 epic U.S. locations, with all-inclusive packages and top-tier vendors. From snowy mountaintops to sandy beaches at sunset, every wedding is customized, no two are alike. Start your big day at simplyeloped.com. Today on CityCast Nashville, it's time for our Friday News Roundup. We're joined by our executive producer, Whitney Pasterek, and Nashville Banner reporter, Stephen Hale, to break down the week's biggest headlines. We're talking about increased ICE activity in Nashville and an uptick in self-deportations among local immigrant families. Vice President Kamala Harris was in town, and how the Hawk Tuah Girls start on Lower Broadway may end in a federal lawsuit. It's Friday, November 21st. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. Former Vice President Kamala Harris made an appearance in Nashville on Tuesday while on tour for her book, 107 Days. Before a scheduled event at the Ryman Auditorium, she made a surprise appearance at an unpublicized rally in Hadley Park that was organized by the Tennessee Democratic Party, grabbing a megaphone to encourage residents to vote in the current election.
Yeah, the footage from this was really cool. She was joined by a lot of our local officials like State Senator Charlene Oliver, State Representatives Justin Jones and Harold Love, and Metro Council Member at Large Delicia Porterfield. Representative Afton Bain, the Democratic candidate in that TN07 race, made a brief appearance before Kamala to fire up the crowd and tell them they were getting a great surprise, but she didn't stay to appear alongside the former vice president because she had a fundraiser to get to.
Whitney, I'm going to admit, I thought the whole thing was a little weird, right? Why didn't she stay?
Well, and I'll look forward to hearing what Stephen thinks, but according to my sources, the surprise part of Kamala's appearance also might have been a surprise to Afton's campaign. My guess is that when approached with this news and this invitation, come out and do a rally with Kamala, that her camp could have calculated that in this very unique race where they've got to win over new voters, they've got to win over independent voters in order to win the seat, a photo with Kamala Harris maybe wouldn't add so much value, right? Like, people who love Kamala are probably already voting for Afton. And, you know, I think there was some concern, too, that it could actually do just real damage to the rural counties that make up the bulk of the district.
Yeah, I mean, people should check out my colleague Sarah Grace Taylor covered this hubbub. I think what you said, Whitney, makes sense. When I saw it, I saw some people reacting to it, seemingly interpreting it as a slight from Kamala Harris's side, like, oh, I'm not going to endorse Afton Bain, which I don't know, that maybe that's how she feels or maybe it isn't. But my first thought was what you said, Whitney, that it could well be that that's not a photo op that the Bain campaign is seeking either. You know, I know that what she told Sarah Grace was she had this big fundraiser downtown and, you know, they didn't organize the event. So the ins and outs of the logistics of that, I don't know. But I think your take makes sense to me, which is that Kamala Harris showed up, told people to vote for Democrats. That will include Afton Bain. And the people that Afton Bain needs to get to come out, if she's going to pull off a pretty big upset in this race, are people that either aren't paying attention to that sort of event anyway, or are going to be much more open to a kind of outsider campaign than the idea that this is just the next Democrat off the factory line, you know?
Right. And it's not just, to be clear, it's not just people who lean right who maybe would be turned off by an appearance with the former vice president. There are a lot of people on the progressive left. But anyway, it's weird for this kind of thing to happen in Nashville. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, we don't have the former vice president of the United States just popping by to do a campaign rally. And I also found it hilarious that Metro Council barely achieved quorum on Tuesday night because everybody went to the Kamala Harris book
Everyone
event.
was there.
Come on.
Well, the GOP is definitely concerned about this race. What should be a safe 20-point advantage for them seems to be shrinking. And last week, the Cook Political Report even moved the district from strong Republican to likely Republican, with some saying the margin could now be down to as few as 8 points. Republican super PACs have pumped over $1 million into advertising for Matt Van Epps this week alone, according to the Nashville Scene.
Yes, I saw a commercial during Survivor on Wednesday night that was all like Afton with like flames, and she's a radical because she wants to protect trans kids. Oh my God. I laughed so hard. I was just like, our little girl made it.
I was sipping on my holiday cocktail at East Nashville Beer Works when that came on, and I thought of you, Whitney. Well, speaking of finances, Mr. Van Epps might want to look into his own. According to the Tennessean, he has not filed his mandatory personal financial disclosure with the clerk of the U.S. House of Representatives, which was due 30 days after he officially became a candidate. So, July 16th.
Oh, yes, he's late. July 16th.
I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but...
And I'm not a parliamentary proceduralist, but why is he allowed to keep running?
Well, I was just going to say, Whitney, I mean, if you look around in the news and our political system right now, one thing's for sure is that all these little rules and procedures are very strictly enforced. And, you know, you definitely have to follow them all, or there are quick consequences for them.
Right. Shout out Cade Cothran. Best of luck to you, by the way.
The other thing I'll just note is that I think one way you can find out just about yourself if you're listening to this, if you're a true like political junkie sicko, is if you were already aware that the 7th district had been changed from strongly Republican to likely Republican, if that slight change made it into your personal network, you're a real freak like us. So
Thank God, and thank God for you. Well, and for you sickos out there, we are on Monday going to have an interview with Matthew Klein, the analyst from Cook Political Report, who made that change. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be talking to him about what this race looks like from the outside and, you know, what the heck is going on?
In all seriousness, I mean, this is the kind of moment when these sorts of political upsets like happen from either side of the political spectrum. Like you can think back to when Barack Obama was in office and suddenly some Tea Party candidate that you'd never heard of wins because there's a wave going up. There's a lot of upheaval and it's hard to predict things right now. And that's the moment when these kinds of things can get interesting for sure.
Keep voting, everybody. You're shaking things up. We've got some good news from Metro. The Tennessee Performing Arts Center and Mayor O'Connell's office have reached an agreement that clears the way for TPAC to officially move to the East Bank. Woo, woo. According to news, I'm really excited about this. Okay. According to News Channel 5, the deal allows TPAC to relocate to Metro-owned land along the Cumberland River while sharing infrastructure costs with Metro. The agreement also grants Metro access to use the future facility 30 days each year for educational programming and public needs.
Stephen, your fellow banner Stephen Elliott.
I was going to say you've got the wrong Stephen on for this news, but I have read his article. Yes,
Steve/Stevens, but he did have some great reporting on this in the banner yesterday. What took so long with this whole thing?
There was a period where it was just kind of taken as for granted that this was going to happen, and then a while back we had the kind of standoff where TPAC all of a sudden was saying, we'll find somewhere else. We can put this thing anywhere. From the outside, just kind of observing it, it always seemed to me like this was going to get done. It was just kind of, we got to work out the details and, so some posturing had to happen.
Always.
But yeah, I don't know that it ever really made sense that they were just going to up and put this somewhere else,
Right. This is supposed to be kind of one of the crown jewels. I guess the Titan Stadium would be.
Yeah, it's a sort of anchor of
an
the
adjacent jewel right there by the pedestrian bridge. So, Marie, you can go see musicals in a new place someday.
Yay! And then go see a football show. Two more quick hits of Metro good news. The East Convenience Center is finally back open after 2 months of being closed for upgrades, which means I can finally take the recycling out of my trunk that has been there for the last 2 months and go recycle
That's where the recycling goes, though.
I know. That's right. It just lives in the trunk.
It's back there with the bag of clothes that you're going to donate.
Oh my gosh. I love when I go to pick people up at BNA and they're like, "Ooh, I'll just throw this in." I'm like, nope. Recycling's back there.
That's where the glass lives.
That's where glass lives.
Well, I want to also shout out Sabrina Sussman and the Choose How You Move team for a great new web tool that I spotted this week that lets you see all the improvements from Choose How You Move that are rolling out district by district. So this is on the city's website, nashville.gov, and we'll put the direct link in our show notes. But I mean, I thought it was kind of cool to click on District 5 and see like, oh, Elvira Avenue is finally getting sidewalks, which is something we've been begging for since 2016. So we love a visualization tool. We love easy access to data. And we love that we can now have some answers to the question of what are they doing with all that money?
Guess what? CityCast has some news. I'm Sean McPherson, the host of CityCast Twin Cities.
And I'm Jane Sihu, and I'm the host of CityCast Seattle. Hey, if you have a friend in one of our cities, can you text them for us?
Yeah, something, simple like, hey, how's that rash doing? And do you listen to podcasts? Because I have one you're definitely going to like. After that, tell them that CityCast has helped you become more informed, more involved, and more connected to your amazing city.
We're going to help that person you know in Seattle who's been trying to make friends.
And we're also going to do that for that guy you only kind of knew in college who moved back to the Twin Cities after graduation.
Don't we all have that guy?
Yeah, and usually that guy is named Todd.
So did you text them yet?
Jane, let's just wait a minute. We don't want to rush anybody. We'll do a little small talk. How's everything going in Seattle?
Beautiful, beautiful. Fall leaves popping. How about Twin Cities?
Today, beautiful and sunshiny in St. Paul. Okay, Jane, I bet they are done texting by now, and I just want to remind them, hey, you, please tell that friend to subscribe to CityCast Twin Cities or Seattle, wherever you get your podcasts.
Or if you don't want to text them and you're really just on Instagram sending them DMs all the time with like funny videos, send them a DM of our latest videos. You can find us at CityCast Twin Cities or CityCast Seattle on Instagram. Thanks.
Two stories this week, one from the Tennessee Lookout and the other from Nashville Banner, highlighted a story about a man named Felipe Mendez Domingo, who came to the U.S. from Guatemala with his wife and 3 young children in hopes of providing a better life for them here. But in 2023, he lost his wife and 2-year-old son when tornadoes ripped through his trailer park here in Nashville.
Yeah, I was working with World Central Kitchen when that Madison tornado hit, and it was brutal. And it also hit a part of town where a lot of immigrant families were and are living. And, what stood out to me as I was going door to door offering folks, warm meals was that a lot of them were refusing help from Metro and FEMA, both out of fear and also because of the language barrier. And it was incredibly frustrating to me seeing how little help these families were getting. And I can't imagine how much more frustrating it was for those families, and especially Felipe. And now we've learned that after losing his home and his wife and his child, Felipe was pulled over in the Big May ICE dragnet and was handed over to ICE agents.
Stephen, you reported on Felipe's story for the Nashville Banner this week. So what happened after that? Did he end up getting deported? What about his small children?
My understanding of Felipe's story is, as you said, he was one of, nearly 200 people that were arrested in that May ICE operation largely in South Nashville, and that he was detained, but actually somewhat surprisingly let go because he told the officials that he had these 2 children at home that he had to take care of. And so he was let out and then went through a period of months where he would check in with ICE, but the sort of conditions of his release were that he needed to address his legal status in some way, which, as people may assume, is much more difficult to do than it is to say, and
right.
And especially if you don't have the kind of money for the legal resources that you would need. And so at the end of that time, sort of facing either being just detained again and leaving his children probably to go into state custody, having already lost their mother, he decided, like a number of people have in recent months in Nashville, to just voluntarily self-deport, quote unquote, and leave the country with his kids.
And you spoke to a friend of mine, political activist Ashley Warbington, who has been actively helping fundraise for these families, and she helped with Felipe's return to Guatemala. What are you hearing on the ground? What is the biggest fear for these people going back to their countries?
I mean, there are a number of things, right? Obviously, a lot of people come to this country for different reasons, but speaking generally, a lot of people come for either safety, they're fleeing Central American, South American countries where there is a lot of cartel violence and these sorts of things, and then economic opportunity. And so for the people who are now having to return to those countries that they left, in some cases not very long ago, they're going back to situations where it might be hard for them to find work, where they and their families may, be in physical danger, or, they may not have some of the resources that they had here. I spoke to one advocate who told me about a woman she was getting to know who made it back to Venezuela, but was like, I wish I hadn't left, because at least in America, there were some resources I could go. There were people in the community. I could get food for my kids. Like, there were some people supporting us, and she's gone back to a situation where, because of her particular case, she doesn't have the support that she did have here. I'm sure that there are some people for whom there's a bit of relief in there too. They're reunited with people who were deported from here, and so their families and separate, and that's not a small thing. But they're returning to places that they made the choice to leave because they felt that they couldn't keep them or their families safe there.
And I think it's worth mentioning that Felipe, who your story focused on, he did have a job. He was working at Wendy's, and he was actually coming home from his late shift when he got picked up by ICE. So this is a guy who, like everyone else on Earth, has kids and is trying to do right by them. And I sometimes feel as though people within the federal government right now are painting self-deportation as this like happy option. Like, you can just choose to go home. It doesn't make me feel any better whether someone is disappeared or whether someone is forced to move out of terror from America, a country that was built on bring me your tired, huddled masses.
Yeah, I think a thing to note is that for a lot of people, on the right who have wanted harsher immigration policies, not just in recent years, but for a while now, a part of that has been the idea that you will deport more people, but also you will make it hard or harder for people who are undocumented to exist here, so that some number of them will just leave on their own. And I do think that's what you're seeing in a lot of these cases, right? Where it's not like the whole family or the husband and wife were both detained, but one is detained. Maybe in some of the cases that I heard about, you have a woman who's just had a baby, so she's not working, she's got a newborn. Her husband maybe is working, and then he gets detained. She can't work to make money. That person has pretty few options. But yeah, I think to your point, Whitney, this probably should be seen as, this isn't a way that people are avoiding the Trump administration's mass deportation plan. This is part of the mass deportation plan. I mean, the plan envisions detaining and deporting a lot of people, and also creating conditions that will effectively force a lot of other people to just leave the country in one way or another.
ICE efforts in Nashville have been out of the news largely since May. We've obviously been focused on other parts of the country like Chicago and now Charlotte, North Carolina. But Marie, we've seen an uptick in the last couple of weeks, correct?
Yes. And especially this week, local activists, the Music City Mira Watch group, which is just a group of community volunteers, have been monitoring the presence of ICE. And apparently there's been a lot of ICE vehicles coming and going from the ICE field office here in town. And so these organizers, these volunteers, activists, neighbors are just really encouraging everyone to stay safe and aware and vigilant. So if you do see any potential ICE activity, you can call their hotline at 615-933-8409. Meanwhile, more news came out this week about a department that's been under a lot of scrutiny, the Office of Homeless Services. Metro watchdog Mike Lacey dropped a new Substack post on Tuesday with more details from one of the women who says OHS promised to cover her rent and provide her with a housing voucher and then failed to follow through, leaving her at risk of eviction. The strange part in the story is that the woman, Esther Cunningham, says that she spoke by phone with Mayor O'Connell to try and get help, but the mayor's office is now saying it never happened. Stephen, what's your take on this?
I hesitant to comment on that story specifically just because I don't know all the background details of her story. I do know that this is just a continual issue, not even just as it relates to OHS specifically, although I know, as you said, there's been a lot of scrutiny and frustration among advocates with them, but just how difficult it seems to be for us to get people into housing, just on an individual level. The hoops that have to be jumped through, the sort of Byzantine nature of the whole thing is incredibly overwhelming. And, recently my wife and I, just in our personal kind of community, have been a small part of trying to help someone who had been living on the streets kind of find some resources and get help. And, it's kind of funny because someone who reads this stuff, talks to people in Metro like you guys, I kind of thought, well, here's some ideas, maybe try this. I don't work in this every day, but I knew at least some places to check. And then just how quickly you run up against dead ends, even in the best cases, even when people are all very well intentioned and trying to do things, like even when the system seems to be trying to be helpful, it is so complicated.
I mean, it's absolutely maddening. There was this guy named Ricky who was basically living at the McDonald's across from my street. And the amount of phone calls and effort and screaming and yelling to try to get Ricky, just the ability to get on a bus, it took me weeks.
The amount of resources you have to have just to access or try to access the resources that are available is really something to see up close. I mean, and again, I know this is somewhat tangential to the story about OHS, but to me, this is like, it's all happening in this context that is just this tangled web. On the surface, you might say, well, Nashville has a decent amount of resources. There's some places where you can get a meal. There's places where you can maybe get shelter things. If you don't have a phone, if you can't get around very easily, I mean, you'll spend days trying to get into some of these places or get in touch with some of these people that need the resources. That's even if you ever find out about them. It's overwhelming. I guess I may sound overly sympathetic to some of the systems in the city. It's not because I don't think we should scrutinize what our city does in this area. It's just that every time I come into contact with the system, I'm so overwhelmed with it that anytime one individual thing seems to go wrong, I'm like, yeah, I don't know how it ever goes right. It seems very complicated. And I do think it's important to say, because people are listening to this driving down their car and they see someone on the corner, and a somewhat understandable thought to have might be like, well, why doesn't that just person, okay, you're on hard times, but there's these resources. There's this church over there. There's this place over there. Go ask for some help. It's just not that simple. It's not as simple as you might think.
On that note, I also want to mention that there's more trouble coming because the cuts to housing first on the federal level that I mentioned on the show last week have in fact now happened. And those funds that are getting cut were for permanent housing. That's being shifted now to more of a transitional housing model, as well as, according to NPR, other programs that will, quote, restore accountability and promote, quote, self-sufficiency. So we all know what that's code for, right? I mean, that's code for you've got to go to a sobriety treatment center before we're going to give you a house. That's code for you have to make yourself into an upstanding citizen before we will even consider putting a roof over your head. And that roof will be temporary.
So it's a self-responsibility kind of lacquer over the whole thing, which, of course, again, you can kind of see how people get there on the surface. But as I'm sure you guys know, anyone you talk to who works in this area with people trying to get off the street and into housing will tell you the just immense benefits that can come from getting the housing first. Hence the name of the federal program.
Literally housing, get housing first. Yeah, right.
You want to know what makes it easier for you to stay off drugs, be sober, have better mental health, have better physical health, is not sleeping outside, is having an apartment or having a bed and having a house. And then a lot of those other things are easier to tackle when you kind of have those fundamental needs taken care of.
Well, I just want to mention this past week on Tuesday, I attended the Trinity Community Commons neighborhood dinner, and we learned about them on Monday's episode when I spoke to Zach and India, which if you didn't listen to that episode, please check that one out. But my experience, you go and you share a meal with people who are experiencing homelessness, and they're going to be having a Thanksgiving meal this next Tuesday. And as we look ahead, we're all going to be celebrating Thanksgiving with our families, friends, whatever. But I personally am really looking forward to this meal to share with these people, with this community. I've learned so much from Open Table, who is also there. But I encourage listeners, come out on Tuesday night to Trinity Community Commons, share a meal with our neighbors. It's a really special place, and you do leave feeling more connected to Nashville. And it's worth, you feel joy, but then also it's more of like, all right, we have a lot to do. We have a lot of work to do. And these are the people who are actually doing the work. And apparently the menu is going to be outstanding for this Thanksgiving meal. So come on out. Donna, good news.
Marie, I know you're excited about this first piece of news. I remain skeptical. Go for it.
Ooh, Nate Bargatze is one step closer to realizing his dream of opening a theme park in Nashville. The Nashville Scene reported that a feasibility study on Nateland is slated to be completed by early 2026, with the preliminary discussions underway with local government officials. Once the study is completed, Nateland Experiences will focus on landing investors.
Are they talking to the same local officials that Elon Musk and the Tesla tunnel talked to?
If they were going the same route as that, this thing would already be getting constructed. The
there'd
fact
be a
that
roller
we heard
coaster
about it before
going
they
up.
started means it's different. Yeah.
Maybe we can combine the two.
I know, roller
Nateland's
coaster.
Tesla tunnels.
I'm going to zag on this. I mean, ever since I've lived here in Nashville, which is like 15 years now, I've heard people pining for the days of Opryland. And I know that you can never get that back. It's a nostalgic thing that, existed at a specific time, but maybe it wouldn't be so terrible to have a little amusement park around, I just went to Dollywood earlier this year for the first time. That was a blast.
As someone who grew up here and misses Opryland every single day, I do. I think it'd be great to have a theme park, especially as we hear more and more families, moving here, but also visiting tourists are always like, what do I do with my kids? Well, I'll tell you what they could do is go to Nateland.
But what are the themed rides going to be?
Ha ha ha.
That's the name. Tip your servers.
You tip your servers.
I will say,
Try the
if
chicken
all
fingers.
the rides, and I like Nate Bargatze, but I like his comedy. I think he's funny. If all the rides are also Nate themed, that would be a little weird.
I know.
It would be weird.
Yeah, it can't be comedy club themed. Maybe it's like Magic World after his father. His father's a famous,
Right.
That's true.
magician. That could be fun.
They've rebuilt a reenactment village of Old Hickory Village. Like 10 minutes away from the actual Old Hickory Village.
It's where I'm coming to you from right now. It's where I live.
Ah,
Come on.
well, look at
You
that.
can be
Put
a
it in the
walk-around
neighborhood.
character at Nateland.
Honestly, put a dome over our neighborhood and I'll just be like, hi, neighbor. I'll just be one of those people. That sounds
Like
great.
Colonial Williamsburg. Well, for the rest of you out there who are big Nate Bargatze fans, we also saw that the Preds are holding a Nate Bargatze bobblehead giveaway night ahead of his weekend at Bridgestone next month. So the guy's hot. He's hot. Nate, come on the show. We want to hear what you're thinking.
And it's time to really get your name out there, Nate. You got to, it's
That's
time
right.
to actually do some
spread.
promotion.
We'll let people know who you
Yeah.
are.
Speaking of sports, let's move to two more pieces of sad news from Nashville SC. They've made a bunch of roster decisions in the last week, and a lot of change is hitting our boys and goals, folks. So we need to say goodbye, unfortunately, to he's not blue, he's not green, he's teal Bunbury, long-time guy that would come in at the end of the game and hopefully maybe score a goal, but mostly just run around. And also a great guy in the community. And then we're possibly most heartbreaking for me, my soccer boyfriend, Joe Willis, the goalkeeper. He is also moving on from the team. So I guess Joe said no.
Joe said no,
to
yeah.
a contract extension.
I am so sad about that.
I know you are, but I think you're probably more interested in this next piece of news. Again, I
That's
don't want
right.
to pigeonhole you.
That's okay. Pigeonhole me all you want, because I am excited to talk about Haley Welch, a.k.a. the Hawk to a Girl, just got dragged into a federal class action lawsuit accusing her of helping hype a pump and dump meme coin.
Oh, no, not a pump and dump.
A pump and dump. Anyways, the lawsuit alleges that she hyped the Hawk token with misleading promises. All while insiders allegedly funneled the real gains into their own pockets. Some people say she was just paid to talk, but others accuse her of playing a key role in the scheme that left investors holding dust.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I can't believe people invested in this thing thinking it would be stable. I also enjoyed that in that story from Gizmodo, they designated Haley as a former podcaster. So
You've identified the one thing that I was locked in on. Former podcaster. I'm like, and she did have a podcast. Was it Talk Tua, if I recall?
I believe, yes.
Which you got to respect. I mean, that's a great name.
I mean, she had a terrific 15 minutes of fame.
I love that it all started in Nashville.
Remind people how it started.
In our fair city.
She was on the side of the street on Broadway, and somebody asked about, how to keep a man, I believe. And she said, "Hawk Tua," which is great advice. Anyway.
She flew too close to the sun, alas.
I wasn't gonna chime in with my full reenactment of her.
My God.
But,
well, you know what? We'll get you to record that and we'll put it as an Instagram exclusive.
Well, I'll tell you what, my
reenacting Hawk Tua girl.
My favorite side character in all this was her friend, who was there too, and just, I mean, like, the viral sensation just barely missed her. Like, because she got asked a question, she kind of froze, and then our hero just leaned in. But I respect that. Is it Haley Welsh? Mm-hmm, yeah. I respect that she brought her along. Like, when she had the podcast, that friend was there. She's like, no, this is us. We are Hawk Tua girls. You got to bring your people with you.
That's nice. Yeah. Well, best of luck to you, Haley. We're excited about your next chapter, whatever it is. All right, we're wrapping it up. Before we get into what we're doing this weekend, we want to give a huge shout out to our newest CityCast Nashville neighbor, Campbell H. Campbell H., welcome to the family. We're so glad to have you. And if you want to become a neighbor here at CityCast and get exclusive events and ad-free listening, you can visit membership.citycast.fm. And what a nice gift that would be to give people for the holidays. Speaking of the holidays, we also want to give a huge shout out to Katrina G., CityCast Nashville neighbor Katrina G., who says she is loving the nonprofit Pathways Kitchen for her Thanksgiving sides and pies. So check them out if you haven't. That's a neighborhood shout out that Katrina was able to do here on the podcast because she's a member. So anyway, sign up. All right, what are we all doing this weekend?
I'm really excited to go to Indiginash this weekend. It's a 5-day celebration of Indigenous art scene here in Nashville. It features amazing art exhibits that I personally have some friends who have curated, which is really cool. And then also they have a comedy night that a friend of the pod, Eddie Ortiz, is performing at.
Yeah.
So it's all weekend long, and it seems like it's just a really great way to support our Indigenous community here. So check that out at indiginash.org.
Amazing. I want to make sure everybody knows about the Puppet Die Hard Christmas Carol.
Yes, I know.
That's taking place at TPAC this weekend. I can't even wrap my brain around what this could possibly be, so I'll just read directly from their website. Expect curse-filled carols, felt explosions, and the most inappropriate holiday puppet show.
Are there any other kind of carols? Other than curse-filled?
It's the most inappropriate holiday puppet show you've ever seen. My favorite part about this is that they say it's your first taste of puppet anarchy, although I did see Avenue Q, so I feel like I'm kind of on board there. Yippee-ki-yay, Music City, and then the event description is followed by a disclaimer that says, this presentation is a licensed event and not affiliated directly with the nonprofit Tennessee Performing Arts Center. So that will probably be foul as F, and I'm pretty psyched. Stephen Hale, what are you doing this weekend?
I got 2 things for you. Novelette, the bookstore Novelette, is having a pop-up kind of tattoo event. It's a fundraiser. I may go by there and get a tattoo.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think it's happening on Sunday. You can look up Novelette on Instagram. Great bookstore. You can also buy books too, which people should do. But the other thing I'm definitely doing, my wife and 2 daughters are going out of town this weekend. They're going to New York City. I'm going to be here alone. When that happens, I usually try to see the biggest, dumbest movie that I can see. I will be going to see Predator Badlands.
Wow. Getting crazy.
I know that your wife and daughters are excited for you.
Predator Badlands is not really their speed. So
No.
yeah, someone's got to see it though. And it's going to be me.
All right. Please report back on Blue Sky. Stephen Hale, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, stick around.
Thank
We're
you for
going to
having
get
me.
you
Always fun.
acting out the hawk for us for Instagram.
Yeah, before you go.
Yeah, thanks. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Stay safe. Take care of each other.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson. Our executive producer is Whitney Pasterek. Our producer is Daniel Sumstein. Our Hey Nashville newsletter editor is Margaret Kingsbury, with additional support this week from McKenna Harford. Our theme music is by Prof Jenkins, with additional music by Tambor and Rosedale from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images, and Hip Color courtesy of EpidemicSound.com. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!